Shalom, shalom, greetings and blessings from Israel, the land of the Bible. Welcome once again to a new episode of Getting to Know Israel with the Bible in hand. And where are we, Lore?
In the desert, I would say, in the part of the desert.
For those who know the Bible, for those who know the geography, not the Bible, who know the geography of the territory of Israel. If we say the Arabah Desert and the Negev Desert, you might recognize them. We are located exactly near the border area between the Arabah Desert and the Negev Desert. Now then, in ancient times, if we refer to the 12 tribes of Israel, we know there was a tribe called the tribe of Judah that lived in a specific area between Jerusalem and the area of Beersheba, but also from Beersheba downwards, there was another tribe, which was the tribe of Simeon. So we are located exactly between these two lines, between the tribe of Simeon and the tribe of Judah. In this specific territory, as you can see here around us, the desert, specifically of Israel, in ancient times, many thousands of years ago, there was someone very well known to you, to us, named Abraham. Abraham, when he arrived here in the land of Israel, he didn't arrive alone. He arrived with a group of people, with a lot of people.
Family members, yes.
Exactly. Servants, workers, people who were accompanying him with all the livestock and everything, right? But when, also together among all of them, his family arrived, more precisely his nephew. I know you might already know and be telling me the name, but I still don't want to say it. Because possibly on the other side of this mountain you see here, behind us, Mountain Hill that you see here behind us, possibly he passed through here. And when he passes through here, he finds a view on the other side of something that existed back then, which no longer exists today. What we're gonna do today is precisely go through what once existed. But we're going to try to see what he possibly saw with his own eyes in ancient times. And possibly Abraham also passed through here, maybe.
Surely on one of his journeys.
Possibly, in fact, maybe in one of the places I saw. In fact, maybe in one of those conversations, he had to ask for mercy and reach an agreement. We might be giving a lot of clues here about the place that can be found on the other side of the screen. So we advise you, if you have a Bible, run now, get a Bible, because we're going to explore this place with the Bible, and we're also going to look at some Bible verses. And without a doubt, today is one of those days that I think is going to be really interesting. Because we've found and realized that there's very little recorded material about the place that we're specifically going to visit today. So, once again, welcome, make yourselves comfortable, and join us as we explore another site in the land of the Bible. Now that you can hear us a little better, since we're getting closer to where you are. As you could see in the image. Well, actually it was an aerial image that was showing what could be seen from above. All that incredible panorama, and you could see a small, like, river there, as some people say. A body of water, actually. That's the well-known Dead Sea. And on the side, let's say, as you had it on the side, what is this? My right? On the right side was already the part, well, it would be the southern part where it ends where the territory of the Dead Sea ends, not where it begins. We specifically are at the site known as Kikar Sodom. In the Hebrew language, well, in Spanish. Rather, what does it mean? Kikar Sodom? Kikar? It's like a central circle, exactly. In some languages, they call it a roundabout. In other places, they call it a traffic circle. Here it's called Kikar. That doesn't mean it's a traffic circle or a biblical kikar. What it means is that it's referring to the circle. And why is it referring to a circle? Because, possibly, it seems that Sodom was the city that started from the territory of Israel, that is, from the geographical part of the map of Israel closest to the city of Beersheba. So there we had Sodom, we had Gomorrah, we had Zor, and several more cities. In total, how many? Five. We had 5 cities and everything that is called Kikar, the circle of the territory of Sodom. Sodom was apparently the largest or most important, the top one. Exactly, maybe like the capital of the 5, it was the biggest because in fact, Sodom says it was a small city. The Bible says so. Now let's go a little deeper into this, but specifically we want to focus precisely on this part of the story in the Bible. We said at the very beginning, that we came to a place where possibly someone saw this image that we were seeing from above. That person. There were 2, Abraham and his nephew Lot. Lot. In fact, the meaning of the name is quite interesting. Even regarding what will happen to him after what happens in these cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Everyone knows the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. The truth is that there are very few videos about Sodom and Gomorrah because it is not known exactly where Sodom and Gomorrah are located today.
As cities.
Of what was left.
Of the remains.
Exactly. The geographical area is known, meaning they were located here and they were real cities. Cities that truly existed. Absolutely, yes. Well, like the walls of Jericho, which also existed, but there are no traces of them. The Lord said they fell, and they fell, period. Nothing was ever found again. The same thing happened with Sodom and Gomorrah. They were cities that were completely burned, right? I mean, absolutely nothing was left. We are right here in this Kekarsdom. We're gonna go up a hill now, where maybe, possibly, that was part of what was the city of Sodom, or where the city of Sodom began. And we're gonna see what the land looks like a little bit of what we have today. And we're going to focus specifically on the scriptures. We're going to look at Genesis 17, Genesis 18, Genesis 19. Now, as we go, you're going to tell us a little more, okay? Yes. Let's go. Let's walk toward that place. Well, just like now, exactly in front of the image, we have this remaining piece of broken mountain, or what's left here. Is it eaten away too? Why is it eaten away? Because of the wind, the rain. Also, look how interesting. It's for the same reason.
Yes, it's great.
It's all desert. The temperatures here are really high, and this forms precisely because of the lack of water.
Exactly. The soil is somewhat clay-like.
That doesn't allow much absorption.
Now, well, let's do one thing, because possibly many people know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, but they don't know how we got there. Why did we arrive in Sodom and Gomorrah, and why did Lot come here? What did he have to do there? Why did he go to live there? What happened at one point? Did he come here with Abraham? Did Abraham also live here? So, what we can
Do is tell a little bit like this in small points.
A historical line in
Time.
So that we can bring ourselves down to earth a little. Why did Lot end up here? Do you remember that even though Abraham, when he decided to leave after God called him to leave the Chaldeans, he didn't come alone. As mentioned before, he brought some of his family, servants, his helpers, and so on. And Lot also came, as we mentioned, after that whole journey. A minor issue arose between Lot's and Abraham's shepherds, as both men were very wealthy. They had many, many animals, a lot of livestock, and there, so that there wouldn't be a quarrel and so they wouldn't fight among themselves.
What Abraham and Lot decided to do was to separate so they could be at peace, and so that their shepherds wouldn't end up fighting each other.
So that's when Lot lifts his gaze, like we talked about before. You know how it is here?
So, does he do it just like that? Then
Abraham. He lets Lot choose, and once he can also get a little nervous because Abraham let Lot choose. First, because Lot could have chosen the best part, which was the part that God had promised to Abraham. And yet Abraham was not afraid at all to let him decide. And Lot chose what seemed best to him, which was the plain. There were also cities, which are the ones we're mentioning.
Which possibly, look, here, now, we see very little green, right? Exactly, right in front of us. But back then, the Bible also tells us that there were date trees here.
Exactly. It's also called Ajon or Azohar, like the city of dates.
So he saw an opportunity.
He saw an opportunity because he saw a city and noticed progress. Meanwhile, the shepherds were on the other side.
The tent, you know, the tent that Abraham moved from one place to another, that he had to dig a well to get water. Exactly, work hard and reach agreements with others, right? To Abimelech and others who met them there?
Exactly. So each one gave their opportunity.
Look, while you're telling us, what do you think if we go ahead and start climbing up to see what we find up there? Tell us. That's how we are, kind of adventurous.
So, one of the cities, there were 5 cities here. One was Sodom, Gomorrah, as we already said, Tor, and there was also, Amorah. Sodom, as we said, Sodom, Amorah, Admah, and Zeboim, and also Tor, the city we're in now. About to explain. We can see this in Genesis 13. You can mark it in your Bible, which I'm sure you already have nearby. Then we move on to another adventure that they had. That the cities that... These 5 cities were at war. They went to war with Kedolomer. We can find this story in Genesis 14.
What happens with them, these 5 kings?
These 5 cities go against this person, because they were the ones who always paid them taxes, and at one point they said, no, we're not giving them this anymore. In any case, they turned against to fight, and what came out of it was that the winners were precisely these bad ones from Omer and all his kings, and they kidnapped Lot, his servants, his family, and the rest. Does someone bring this news to Abram? Abram, with all his people, gets ready to rescue him. And of course they go, defeat them, take a great loot, and rescue them. And when they're on their way back? That's where we can hear that story we've talked about before when Abraham meets Melchizedek. And that's also something we've discussed before. And I think we all know that he gives him the tithes from everything he had rescued. Right after this happens, we find that Abraham had that encounter with God. About the angels. Sorry for my breathing.
The angels who came to warn him, those 3 angels.
Came to warn him Sodom and Gomorrah would be destroyed. So what is Abraham going to say to him?
He is going to say, if there are 40 righteous people, are you going to destroy it? If there aren't 40 righteous people, if there are 40 righteous people.
Don't destroy it. He starts with 50, then 40. Down to 10.
There weren't even 10, there was only one. So he says, for one too. No, we won't destroy it for one. So what?
Did they do? I'll go ahead a little, because you have to watch until the end of the video to find out why. Precisely, the name Lot in the Hebrew language, of course, turns out to be the key to the righteous. Exactly.
Exactly. Why are they making such a fuss? Why is there so much trouble over one person?
We'll be able to see that in the end.
So when...
The angels tell him this.
And Abraham so kindly intervenes for his nephew, even the angels themselves, this time Abraham didn't have to go rescue him.
The angels themselves went into the city.
And all that altercation happened during the night and in the morning before the sun came up.
The angels take them out. That's a really interesting story, isn't it, right? Just think about it. When Abraham finally steps in, right? That, please, Lord, if you find at least 10 righteous people, well, 50 together, 40, 30. When he reaches 10, he says, forgive me for asking again and being persistent, but please, if 10, are you really going to destroy the city? He says if he finds 10, he won't destroy the city. Then the angels appear and go to the house. Whose house is it? Lot's house, Lot himself, and they're going to announce it to him. And do you remember what Lot does? Lot, does he get the message? It's not that he turned a deaf ear. I mean, he was familiar with Abraham's God. He knew who Abraham's God was. So he quickly goes to where his sons-in-law, his future sons-in-law were, and he tells them, guys, wake up because everything is going to end. It's going to be destroyed, the city. They said no, didn't believe him, and thought he was delirious. And finally, the angels, what do? Before that, what they do ends up giving his daughters an option. So that these bad men from the city will let him, the angels, and them go free. You were mine, so I'll give my daughters to these men so they can have relations and calm down. Finally, the angels make these people blind, those who were already blind, but now they make them blind too. Physically, they were blind spiritually, now they are made physically blind. No, the truth is that it's a very interesting story. And to think that we are standing where Lot was in this area here. This city was a city where Sodom and Gomorrah were cities that disappeared completely, and they were so advanced, so developed. We are now at the top part. We are now at the top part of this city. This story came to my mind, and it's interesting to know. And in fact, to know that a supernatural presence was here, that the Lord sent angelic beings to free this person from what today, simply the only thing we have here are traces. Thank God, God is never late. Never.
He is never late.
This fascinating story, we will find this part in Genesis 19 and then several years later. Also, Moses saw this city when he was on Mount Nebo before entering.
Mount Nebo, allow me. Let's try to locate where it is. Where it is. That. Well, today is the city. Not the city. It's the country of Jordan. What used to be inhabited in that area by the Moabites and the Edomites. In fact, you can't really see it with the camera, but can you tell that it looks kind of reddish? The lower part of the mountain? Because that was the land of Edom. Edom means red. In the ancient language, red. The land of the red ones, where they lived. And further up of the Moabites, who would eventually become the Moabites. Now, are you going to tell us? But Mount Nevaeh, ultimately, we said it's up there.
It was what they could see.
Before crossing and before coming. Of starting to take the promised land.
Which, in fact,
Moses
was the one who saw that and was not allowed to enter. No, John, he was not allowed to enter the promised land. And that's a story we're going to remember when we're in the northern area of Israel, in the Golan. Why are we including that part of the story? The Lord doesn't allow him to enter with the transfiguration, because remember that when he was transfigured, he was next to Jesus. So what happened? Did he enter or not? We'll see that in another video.
So that story of Moses comes later, which is in Deuteronomy chapter 34. Now, the topic of this city tour has a translation that is related to tsar, which means sadness. Also with leasir, with katan, which means small, because you saw that it also says, isn't this city small? Let me flee to it.
He also said, that's right.
It is also related to the root of carol, which means close, and with the root of mate, which means little. These are the meanings of the name in the Shemiot languages.
Exactly, Semites. You are giving us all these meanings, and it's very new for many people. That's why I tried to say it slowly, but it's something very key we realized. It's very interesting. Now, why? Is it also very new? Because the Bible, when it's translated, only says Zor means small city. But actually, as we said, in the Hebrew language, many meanings come from the root. And actually, in that story, when the angels come out and when Lot is there and he looks, just imagine what he does. He looks over there and he's looking and says, there's a small city called Arasor. Let me get to it. And it says that he arrived at dawn. The angels told him, well, we'll allow you that. But we can't stop what will happen here in Sodom. So the destructions comes to an end. Also, this point that you mentioned, Close,
It's so interesting because
Is so interesting because not only did Lot choose this group of 5 cities to come and live in, compared to Abraham's choice, which was the promised land by default, but also when it was destroyed, he was there just very
close, very
Close to that place. In fact, it's like it hasn't really come out completely yet, actually.
He actually felt heat on his back. Totally. I mean, just think about the city behind, the noise. Imagine the screams that must have been happening at that moment. From his friends.
Like in Noah's Ark,
There, around.
people around the ark were repenting.
And he couldn't turn around because the Lord told him only to look forward, that no one should look back. And we remember the case that it was exactly his wife had this tendency to look back, to look at what we left behind. I don't know what they might have left behind, the house, their riches, what they had. And I don't know if the noise would have caught her attention. Or is it really going to happen that everything will be destroyed? Let me see, I want to look for...
Curiosity too.
We women are quite curious.
There's a Spanish saying, curiosity killed the cat. What happened to her? Ultimately, it was that she turned into salt.
Into statues of salt.
Into a...
Statue of salt.
We are going to visit that place because there are people around here who show and say that Lot's wife is there. That's what it's called, right? If you Google it, it's Lot's wife. Waze can take you there and there's a giant statue of Lot's wife. We are going to go to that place too. It's good to visit that site, but something interesting. I think we can't lose sight of it because it's very interesting. Notice that we actually met again. On the upper part, on top of a kind of mound, and from here, we would have the view of what this circle was. From this panoramic view, we can see neighboring cities, including Zohar, which means suffering. Only he, Lot, ends up, only he finishes his days in that suffering.
It's super interesting because God didn't want him to suffer. God wanted something else for him.
Is it always enlarge the place of your tent? It's just that...
In fact, to accompany him to...
To accompany Abraham.
And
Lucky it could have been.
a second Abraham, but he chose.
He chose.
Always the rudimentary. He chose what was close, what was sad, what was there small. But God doesn't want this for us. God wants to take us as far as we can go.
But he, even though he had that opportunity, chose time and again to stay in something that God had not planned for him.
And as you say, the
Heat in the
Back. He could have completely left that conglomerate of 5 cities and really left that behind and moved forward, right? He moved away a little and stayed there.
in that.
Same place in the area.
It would seem like I'm pretending to listen to the men on the other side of the screen now, and why? Since they're telling me, I'm listening. He listened to his wife completely, when Lot's problem was that he listened to the woman. She led him there. She was kind of a bad woman. But the answer, and sorry, men on the other side, and here I'm helping. Maybe for women, it's not the woman's responsibility because, look at this. God is even giving him one more chance. I mean, he's giving him the chance. Get out, because this city is going to be destroyed. Now, he knew how he got here. He knew the route to get here. And the route to get here was through the city of Beersheba.
When she arrived with Abraham,
All the way, and it was exactly the place where God told him, this is where you have to stay in Beersheba, and he left from there, of course, but he more or less knew the plans. Exactly. Now, wait, because this is really interesting. Instead of going back to the place, to the base, what did he do? He kept moving away because he went to the city of suffering. And let's look at it physically. Let's show this. Because actually Abraham should have come from here, from this place. Up there, all the way to the city of Beersheba. Up there, along that route going up, we're going to Beersheba. And instead of Lot going that way when they were destroying the city, what does he do? He ends up going in the completely opposite direction. He goes over there to the place called Tzor, which is eventually called the Zone of Suffering, Tzor. Look. Let's keep exploring. Let's keep looking at this place. Let's go down now. And we'll keep heading toward the area. The northern area covers this part of the Dead Sea, and we're going to see Lot's wife's statue. Let's see what we find. What do you think? Let's head over and get ready. This is getting interesting. Well, this is a cave. We don't interpret it, but this is a cave. And on top of this, there's a statue, like you just said, a statue of salt.
it's an eroded part.
Of the mountain, which, well, because of the wind, and
Everything was left with those shapes.
in fact, there's a sign there that says Lot's wife. For those wondering, we don't know Lot's wife's name. I mean, we don't know, because the Bible doesn't tell us either. In Hebrew, isn't she just called wife? Like Lot's wife. That's it, Lot's wife. How would you refer to her? The nameless lady in the Bible? But anyway, obviously what they're trying to do is have something like saying, here we have the statue of the other one. Obviously it's not. I mean, we have to call things as they are.
Obviously, it's just to have a reference.
Exactly. Also, from a geographical point of view, they went in another direction. They went toward the territory of Zohar. The Bible tells us so. But of course, in this whole area, there were also caves. So what we did was stop at this cave. To tell you exactly the final story of the other one. Why don't we read it?
Yes, exactly.
And we approached this little cave because we wanted to give everyone a bit of the feeling.
We all wonder, what is a cave? How did they experience it back then? Now there are many of these.
Obviously, of course, this is one that we found here that we were able to enter, but there are several.
Because, well, it's just something natural.
In fact, before you read all of this to me, everything is kind of covered up. It's called salt.
I don't know if you can see it. I think that's what we wanted to say.
This thing that's right on top.
You can't see it very well there.
But you can...
Let's show it. In the next shot.
There are...
Salt everywhere. This also reminds me a bit of the episode we did at the Dead Sea in the Salt Sea, which was all about salt.
This is exactly the same.
Here I have a piece of salt that I finally found, like this, and everything is, well, the salt and covered, right? Look, we need to chop this up and we have dinner.
Don't think that the salt has to go through a whole process.
Well, look.
In the end, the story has ended in a sad way, finally.
Honestly, I think it's among the saddest stories in Genesis. Because it's an entire family involved.
A family that has had chances and chances and chances.
And we can clearly see that they haven't known how to take advantage of them until the end, and they had another chance and didn't take it, and another chance.
So, it's also like a wake-up call for everyone that we can't fool around. We need to be alert and recognize when God is guiding us so we can follow Him. So in Genesis 19, in the last part,
It's telling us that once they took refuge, Lot's wife had already been turned into a pillar of salt.
all that danger had passed, and they took refuge in Zoar, and there was a cave, and they went into that
Cave, so...
What happened?
That's when they...
Didn't have any descendants.
The girls realized that the...
future husbands had stayed there and died too. So, for example, it says, starting from verse 35, they gave them wine to drink.
That night they also gave their father wine, just like the night before, and the younger daughter got up and slept with him.
The older daughter had slept with him the night before.
But he was not aware when she lay down or when she got up.
And both of Lot's daughters conceived by their father, and the older daughter gave birth to a son. And she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day.
And the younger one also gave birth to a son. And she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites to this day. What does this mean, and why is it so drastic?
Well, first of all, the Moabites, enemies of God's people completely, I mean of Israel, and the Ammonites too, enemies of God's people. Ooh. Now notice this, because both Abraham, who is called by God, and they are coming out of a land that was an idolatrous land, where they finally find themselves, where the heavens open. God speaks to Abraham, and Lot knows the God of Abraham because he knew who he was. And finally, he makes the wrong decision, and by making the wrong decision, God gives Abraham an opportunity, and Abraham extends it to everyone with him. When one person is blessed, everyone nearby benefits. Finally, Lot kind of decides to reject it in some way, maybe without realizing it. I don't think he realized it. He was paying attention more to the temporary blessing, the one of the moment, the physical, the tangible. The crowd of people over there is alone. Here there are people. Here the girls, maybe. Future? Maybe.
They were thinking about him.
Future, they were thinking.
About what was good for them, but they looked through his own eyes, not through God's eyes.
That was not the future God wanted for them. So what they did was make that bad decision. Things went badly for him and his wife died along the way. The daughters lost all possibility of starting a family because they lost hope of having a family and came up with a way to get a family for themselves. In other words, let's have descendants. Let's make sure we have descendants so that everything doesn't end with us. So they look for the possibility in the wrong way, maybe rushing things too. I don't know, because I think someone was going to show up along the way, but anyway, in the end they make the wrong decision and they do it in the wrong way too. Because look, they say let's get him drunk so that he loses his mind, so he doesn't know who we are and we're gonna do this act. Lot ends up committing that act, he does that deed. In the end, the girls end up pregnant. They bring a curse upon themselves, and by doing so, God is not involved. God steps out of the covering. Meaning of the name is interesting. It's like God removes that covering. That covering doesn't pass on to the next generation. And as a consequence, notice that instead of being called and established and being in the promised land for future generations, they end up becoming enemies of God's calling.
Incredible. They were so close.
So close.
And they didn't make it.
That's why it is
A sadness.
I think Pablo says it very well, right? Careful, the one who stands firm does not fall. That's what Pablo says, right? Exactly. Again, Bamidbar, Adabar, and Baber. What I just said is the word in the desert. We've already learned a lot today. Without a doubt, I think God has taught us a lot, not just us, but I imagine many of you out there as well. And that it's not just about visiting Israel, the pools of Lot, coming and taking pictures, but understanding all this context, everything that's behind it. Sometimes we lose sight of the little interesting things that God wants to show us and that He left written there for us so that we don't fall into the same situations again. And look, here you have a mirror. Look at this mirror. This was the result and it also shows us the outcome. So don't do the same thing. There are two paths. They always tell us to put ourselves in your shoes. Really, yes. Which of the two are you going to choose? Before, we used to talk to someone and tell them, the ball is on your side of the court. Yes, and I think there's no better way to say it to ourselves. Each of us, and those on the other side, the ball is now in your court. God, we already know that He seeks good for His children. He wants us to be blessed. He requires us to be the place of our tent. So I think we just have to fine-tune our hearing to Him. And that we don't have to. Finally be living. Living in caves was not God's goal for Lot, for him to end up living like an animal. In caves. Family, thank you for joining us up to this point. We sincerely hope that you were able to learn something in another episode. Here from the land of Israel. We'll see you next time. See you next time in a new episode. We'll continue exploring the land of Israel. We have much more to show you. Look here. Every inch of stone we walk on is a story. Every stone, you lift a stone and a story comes out from underneath. So, let's keep discovering the land of Israel together. I just wanted to say, I'm not sure there's more to add.
Say no.
Honestly, I was also very surprised and I learned a lot, so I'll see you in the next episode.
Shalom, shalom. Blessings from Israel. Bye, bye, bye.